My book is The Accountant's Journey from Pennies to Peace. And I hope you enjoyed that song that Judy played by Daniel Namode. Here Goes Nothing. There's really a lot in that song that resonates with me through this journey. So that's why I asked Judy to play it. Um, so I'm just going to share my story. But really, it's about, coming back to my true self, and I just learning to listen to my own voice, to the voice of my soul, and also to catch the vibrations of God, and just learning what His vibrations feel like, and listening to my own voice instead of that voice of ego that is sometimes there, or voice of others around me. Really a difference when I'm able to listen to my own voice and the vibrations from God. That makes a really big difference. So and through my whole journey over the last several years, it's been nice because it's kind of been little moments here and there. I didn't have one great big lightning shot moment that kind of stopped me in the tracks. But I really have been blessed with a lot of pretty amazing moments along the way. And all of those have been stepping stones that have gotten me here and really allowed me to make, this really big change in my life. That's, the story I'm going to tell you tonight. So the short version is that I left, a job that people would consider a pretty secure job. I left it in the midst of COVID when everything was happening, a lot of, insecurity and uncertainty all around. I left a job that, paid me pretty well. And it's a job that I've worked for a company for more than 25 years. So, long term, certainly later in my life, to be leaving a job. Um, but I did all that, and it was the most amazing experience that I've had. Probably one of the most profound experiences. And it wasn't about leaving the job, but it was really the whole journey through it, and what I've learned, and the experience of peace that I felt through it. So that's really what it was all about for me. Um, so I think most of you know um, that I was finance manager for Casino Nova Scotia. And that was a job that was pretty important to me. I put a lot of time and effort into it. I started working for the casino when my daughter was very young. And it was really important for me to provide well for her. I was the sole provider for her, and I just wanted to give her a good life. So, working was important to me, and I put a lot of time and effort into that because it was important for me to provide well for her, but to advance in my career too, so I could buy, better things. I was pretty work focused, like a lot of people are. Um, And so, putting in extra time and being able to, buy better things was important to me at that point in time. And that kind of worked well for me. I did advance my career at the casino. I was able to move into a nicer home, and I was able to buy, nicer things for my daughter. And at that time, if anybody had asked me, who I was pretty quick to answer. I was Alyssa's mom, and I did all of the finances at the casino. So I really gained, that was how I held my identity, was in both of those roles. And that worked for me for a really long time, up until about probably, 6 or 7 years ago. Things started to shift for me. I needed to go into the hospital for just a routine surgery, nothing that was serious, but it came up kind of suddenly. Um, but I remember telling my doctor, nope, this time doesn't really work for me. I've got a lot going on at work, and I really won't be available for probably several months. So I kind of left the doctor's office, totally thinking I would just deal with this, several months down the road, and I was okay with that. But within a day, I had the realization that I'd put my work ahead of my health. And that was a pretty big realization because I hadn't really thought of that before. And I just started questioning my priorities at that time. Like, was work really that important to me that I would put it ahead of my health? So I contacted the doctor, made the arrangements for the surgery, and took time off work. And it was at that time when I was recovering that one of my friends gave me a book, probably a book that's pretty familiar to a lot of you. It was The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari by Brahma and Sharma. But that was the first time I'd read that kind of book. And I had a lot of aha moments throughout reading that. You know, I remember thinking, like, there really is a different way to live and more to experience. And I wasn't doing any of that. And I was missing out on a whole lot. So that's what it really, sparked my journey and my path to seek the spirituality that I'd lost in my late teens, early 20s. But I really wanted to seek that out again. So in that seeking, I was eventually led to the event at Pier 21 called Peace Halifax. You guys all know about. That's the first time I heard about it, though, and I thought, yeah, that's kind of cool. Maybe I can spend a couple hours there on my Saturday afternoon to see what it's all about. So I headed down to the pier, and just the hallway before leading into where the event was, there was some stuff going on there too. And I just remember walking down that hallway and just catching a different vibration and a different energy. And it was pretty real to me. It was pretty strong and it felt familiar, but I couldn't actually place the last time that I felt that kind of energy. Kind of like passing, somebody that you know on the street, but you really can't place where you've seen them before. That's kind of what it felt like to me. So I spent quite a few hours there that day. And that's when I started to attend the Brahma Kumari Center and taking in some courses. And that was the first time that I heard I am a soul and that I'm a point of energy. And that was a pretty big moment for me because I'd never, ever thought of that before. Like I said, I always define myself as a mom and my role in my job. And to learn that that's not who I really am was pretty big, pretty amazing. So kept going to the center, really started to connect to my true self as a soul. I started to develop a relationship with God probably for the first time in my life, and started to develop a daily meditation practice. Meditation isn't something that I did prior coming to the center or even thought of doing. But I was really blessed that meditation just seemed to come really easy for me and pretty natural. I thought meditation was all about, clearing your mind and slowing down the thoughts. And that's not the experience that I had at all. Just I felt very different every time I went into silence. And not silence as in quiet in the room, but the silence within me, and just able to catch a different vibration. So I was drawn into the silence pretty much from the very beginning. And that's really where my relationship with God deepened. And the more I practiced the meditation, the more I felt things start to change within me. And I think the first time I really noticed the change was when I stopped telling people that I worked at the casino. So people would ask me what I did, and I just tell them that I did accounting work, but I stopped telling people where I worked. And it wasn't a conscious decision that I made. It just kind of happened. which was different because I was pretty vocal about that before. I, took a lot of pride in my work. But noticing when I stopped saying that to people was kind of a moment of realization for me. And, and I would ask people, if it was weird that I was at odds with meditating and working at a casino. And most people would just brush it off, saying, no, you've got bills to pay. It doesn't really matter where you work, or, no matter what business you work for, they're all in it to make money. So, what's the difference of going somewhere else? It's just going to be the same. But, that never really sat with me. There was just a disconnect growing within me that just kind of never went away. I was doing this awesome meditation practice, and I felt really good when I was meditating and being at the center. But then I would be at work and I was, anything but that. There was a lot of demands at me at work. The environment itself was just not a positive environment. So I really felt this, difference. And I felt kind of like I was two different people. And I just wanted to be one person. I felt really good when I was meditating and stuff. And I just wanted to be that way all the time. And I wasn't that person at work. I wasn't calm and peaceful, anything but. So, I think of, through this whole process, if there's one thing I've learned, it's just to listen to, my own inner self, my own soul, and to the vibrations, that I get through meditation with God and stuff. And I don't think I was, 100% listening at that time. I felt this disconnect, but there was something in me that just wasn't ready to, totally deal with it at that point. And, it's not about, not here to say that I worked for a bad company, or that everybody needs to work for a company that's just positive for the community. Really it's about how I was just being guided and what was, going on inside of me, through my meditation, the vibrations that I got from God. But the more I meditated, the more I just felt like being at the casino was just not the place that I needed to be. I felt the vibrations from being there, that lower energy. But I also felt kind of guilty, I guess, that I was, earning a living off of this. The vibration from the money that I was taking in and then supporting my home, and buying food, was just starting to not sit well with me. Through my meditation, I was making other changes in my life. I stopped eating meat. I started a vegetarian diet, and eventually a vegan diet. I had given up any form of alcohol that I used to drink. I rearranged my schedule so that I was able to be at the center for class every morning. I was making a lot of these changes in my life and really benefiting from those. But I was still, every day putting myself in an environment that just, didn't sit well with me, and it kind of pulled me down. So, that kind of went on and stuff. But, the more the disconnect fell, there just came a point in time when I realized that how I earned a living was more important than how much money I made for a living. And that was really when things, started to shift for me. I remember asking the question through my spiritual family, which I should have done in the first place, about questioning my work and my meditation. And the answer I got back from them was very clear. If I'm questioning something, whether it's right or wrong, then I probably already know the answer within me. And I did. But just saying that out loud to people and asking people, I think that's what finally got things in motion. Because within that week, I had put my resignation into work and told them that I no longer wanted to be employed there. And I would like to say that things went smoothly after that, but that's kind of not the case. So my second lesson was being clear in my intentions. So yes, I put my resignation in, but I really didn't give them an end date. Because like COVID was going on, things were open and they were closed. And I wanted to give work, sufficient time to find the right person. So I thought I was being really accommodating, but really I just wasn't being clear at all, right? So my lack of clarity was really playing out in how things played out. I was kind of wishy-washy going in, so that's kind of exactly what I got. A month later, nothing had happened at all. My work still hadn't posted even for my replacements. I was still working a lot, so it was just the same. So as I sat with God on that, I really understood that it was because of my lack of clarity around that the road, any blocks just weren't being cleared because I wasn't clear in the first place. So I got to do a redo. So I rewrote my resignation letter and made everything perfectly clear. I gave an exact end date, gave some clarity around what needed to happen to get another person trained. So, everything was really clear in that. So that really helped to move things along. So, and once I made the choice with God, everything seemed to be, really seamless. My close friends and my family, they understood and supported my decision, but I also had people around me that didn't quite understand. And they really questioned why I would even consider leaving a job at this stage of my life in the midst of COVID without having any other job lined up at all. And they really questioned my sanity, I think. But I think what I could see in it was just the fear, right? They didn't understand, and it was all based in fear of the unknown. But for me, I wasn't experiencing any of that fear at all. It was clear to me, my choice was made with God, and I never doubted it. I didn't second guess it after I made the decision. I never wondered if I was doing the right thing because it was completely clear to me. I never, lost sleep about what the future would hold because I didn't have any other job lined up, but I wasn't worried about any of that. And that was kind of new to me. It's not like I'm a worrywart anyway, but to not know what the future is, and I'm leaving a job, and I was completely okay with that, was a pretty amazing experience for sure. But I just surrendered it all to God. I had complete faith in it. I was completely content that everything was going to turn out fine. Some people would come to me and say that I was courageous, and I can kind of see how it looks like I was courageous on the outside, but it didn't feel like courage to me. It was just based on complete faith for me. When I look in the dictionary and look at what courage is, it says, the willingness to confront agony, pain, danger, and uncertainty. And that wasn't my experience at all, So I really, feel the difference between courage and faith, because I didn't have to put on any courage mask. I was just, leaping forward, not knowing where my foot was going to land and not worrying about it either. There was a complete lightness about it that was really nice to experience in this. So I don't think I ever, could have imagined that making a really big life choice like this would just feel so easy and light and carefree. I don't think I could have imagined that when I went in, but that's certainly what I experienced, and it was really nice. And it's no doubt to me that, how I was experiencing all this was because God was in the decision. I made the decision with God. There's a pure intention behind it from the beginning, and I just let go of any expectations of how anything should turn out. And that's really why I was able to experience, the lightness and the easiness of it. So, and everything turned out, better than I could have imagined. I, was able to take the full summer off work, which was amazing because I haven't done that in like forever. But it also opened up opportunities for me to do more service at the center. So that was a really nice blessing. I was able to see how much service happens through the center, which is amazing. But the feeling and the blessing that I got from being serviceable was really nice. And then at exactly the right moment, there was a job opportunity that opened up that I was able to accept, one that I was really happy about. I still do accounting work because that's what I enjoy doing, but I now work at the hospital, and I work with people who help others with their pain management and stuff. So a completely different work environment that I have. The work environment's really positive. I work with an amazing group of people who are really interested in helping out others, and that makes a really big difference for me. And working in the hospital, I'm able to, spend time in the chapel at the hospital and just meditate there and fill it with some positive vibrations for people who need it, who are at the hospital. So that's been, really nice use of my time. And just with a lot less work pressures on me, I have an actual work-life balance now, which is really amazing. So that's been really good. So I think that's my story. I really enjoyed the song that Daniel sang at the first. A lot of the lines really resonated with me. He says, "I'm not afraid. I don't need to ask where I'm going. I'm okay. I've always been, and I always will be that way. And I'll open up and take the chance because I know I'm in good hands." And I think that kind of sums up things for me. So, thanks for listening.
Oh, Shanti, thank you, Sheila. I see everybody just wanting to give you a hug. They are with their eyes and their faces, smilingly giving you a big hug. I can see it. Isn't that lovely? It's beautiful to hear that story. And there may be some questions for you, so just feel free to unmute anyone. I know that I witnessed your journey through all of that, and you were completely cool and calm and unflustered by all of it once the decision was made. You were flustered in the middle part where you were deciding, but without the, I guess, was it clarity or was it will? It's like you were clear you had to go, but you weren't,
There's,
I don't know, there was a little not traction there or something.
I think in that I just needed to work through my own relationship with money, right? There was this mixture of, yeah, I feel the vibrations from it, and it doesn't sit right for me, but it pays me really well and allows me to do things in life that I like to do. So it was really working through my relationship with money. And through it, I'm just able to um, let that go. I don't have the attachment to it that I did. I revalued what's valued to me, and it's not about money and that things can buy. my peace, and listening to myself, my relationship with God, working on the path to be my best self and my purest self is what's important to me. And the money can't do any of that. It's the inner work. And once I was able to work through that, that helped to finally make the decision.
That's interesting. So that's what that wobble period was about, was you sorting that out inside. And the workplace around you seemed even more demanding after you had said you were leaving. It's kind of like they gobbled you up in that last 2 months or something completely.
I sure did.
And that was because internally you hadn't quite settled yourself with the money. So interesting. Yeah. Huh. Go ahead, Deb.
You mentioned asking different people throughout the process what they thought of your thinking about leaving, and then you talked about asking at the center. What did you do with the information you got? Were you looking for advice, or were you, just like I was thinking, answering the question Judy asked, kind of, it was unclear? Was that the time that was helping make it clear, by asking others, not necessarily for advice, but just to be able to do some of your own thinking or something?
Yeah, it was asking people. I think I had this, inner conflict for a long time. And I would say at the very beginning, I might have just been looking for reasons that allowed me to stay and be okay with it. But any answer that I got from people just didn't seem to sit quite well with me. I might have pushed it down for a little bit, but at the very beginning, I was looking for reasons to stay that would allow me to be okay with it. And, they gave answers that were perfectly reasonable, but it never went away in me, the disconnect and stuff that I felt.
That's really good, because when people ask me for advice, etc., it's good to have that kind of attitude about what they're looking for. That's great. Thank you.
I remember when you asked, there were a number of times you asked for almost like a mirror, but at one point when you did ask the question and the answer you got sort of collectively was, well, I guess if you're asking, you already know. It was the time when you asked that question that day, it was the time you asked it in its most straightforward way. It's like, even in the asking of the question, it was clear you had decided.
It was.
Yeah.
And it was an answer that I couldn't, push away or say anything about, because I was asking. They're like, yep, you already know. So I couldn't deny anything at that point in time, but I was ready at that point to accept and make the change.
So you had no job it was a great summer. It was wonderful having you here all the time. You had no job and no money and no stockpile of money. And somehow you were as cool as a cucumber.
Yeah, I had a little bit of stockpile because I hadn't taken vacation at work for a very long time. So I had a little bit of vacation payout when I left. But yeah, I left the job without even looking. I didn't start looking for a job after I left. And it was a little bit of time even then. I took a couple of weeks just to enjoy not working. So I was a little while without looking for a job. And even when I looked for it, I wasn't, applying for everything, because I actually didn't have a job and just wanted something. I was pretty select in what I applied for, because I wanted the right job. It was important for me to have the right job and not just have a job and stuff. But yeah, completely at ease with that process too. I went through some interviews, not with positions that I wanted. And it was interesting, you know, I just applied because I wanted the experience of interviews. And it's interesting, any of those jobs that I didn't want, and I thought I did pretty well in the interviews, I never even heard back from those, like even a no. So it was really interesting that even within my own mind, I'm going to this interview, I don't want the job, but I'm going for the experience. I never even heard back from them with a no and stuff. So it's really interesting, you know, that it really is my vibration that was putting that out there. So.
Well, yeah, you had decided in advance this is not the one, and it was not the one.
It wasn't.
Wasn't it interesting?
And turns out I didn't even get anything from them.
Exactly. And I found it really interesting that the kind of interviews you went for were almost like a variation of the old workplace.
Yeah.
And you went through 2 or 3 interviews with organizations like that until it was almost like weaning away from that old world. And you kept getting requests for interviews that were places that were a bit like what you were leaving in terms of ethical, and you didn't get any of them.
Yeah. Which was perfectly fine. I wasn't upset over not getting any of them at all. Yeah. I knew that they weren't the right place anyway. So, but yeah, it was kind of interesting to watch that happen in front of me too.
I don't know what the rest of you are hearing, but it certainly, when I hear just a solid foundation of faith, which may be even surprising to you, because I don't know that you thought of yourself that way until you've lived through this experience and realize, oh my gosh, I just have so much faith. So bedrock of faith, for sure, I hear. But also there's something about, the surrender. There's definitely that there too. But there's help me out here. What are the rest of you hearing? I just lost you for a minute there. Go ahead,
I hear such an ease and such a practicality, like just this. What's the word that we always hear? And really, sensible in the most in the deepest possible way, like full of good sense, and so full of that good sense, which I think is fueled by the faith that you're talking about, Judy, that it's just like, well, of course, which is where the ease comes from that I hear from you. So that's something that, I mean, having stood alongside and seen this story sort of unfold so beautifully, I have felt like, wow, I've felt wowed by your story, but tonight I'm wowed by the way you tell it, and clearly the way that you've experienced it, which is this beautiful, humble, like acceptance, and just this walking straight into what makes sense. Like, of course, of course I'm going to do this. So yeah, I think it's a wonderful model for what it looks like to just say yes, to hear the voice, to hear the truth inside of yourself, and to just say yes. Beautiful. I appreciate you sharing this story so much, Sheila, and it's been just an honor to be there for bits and pieces of it along the way. Just absolutely beautiful. Just beautiful.
Go ahead, Karen.
I really enjoyed hearing the more details, because I was with you a little bit along the journey. I guess my question is, it's more of a curiosity. I think since I've met you, Sheila, I really have seen you in a lot of lightness. It's almost like the light just beams off you, and you seem so light and lighthearted, and certainly that was a quality of this experience that you spoke about, having the faith and that clarity, a deeper knowing and lightness. And I guess what I was curious about is, was that quality there before you made your way down to Peace Halifax hallway, or and also since then, maybe it's more than one question, but I'm curious about the lightness, and I'm curious about how this faith has also impacted you in other aspects of your life. So maybe it's two questions.
I think the lightness to a degree has always been there. I'm not, typically a high-strung person, but it's certainly changed what it looks like. It was more in me before, like I held it close to me before. So it's just more, I don't know, it shines a little bit more, I guess, because I'm around more people and I'm more comfortable with it. So it's always been there, but it's certainly emerging a lot more lately. And the faith, this has been, like I said, this is the experience that I really experienced it to the degree that I have. And it's like the first time when I was meditating and I felt the bodiless experience. It's like, okay, I want to experience that more. So, this is that, other really big experience that I want to feel more of. So it's going to be conscious of, not falling into that, making a decision and, wobbling over it. I need to be clear within myself and have the faith that it's all going to work out, because I definitely want to feel this again. It's like floating along, and it's something I want to feel more of. It's not going to end just here.
Yes, you have been floating. It's a delight to watch you float through some big life changes. It's amazing, actually. I know one of the things that I saw besides the faith was every time you tell how something happened, I just see such a powerful soul discovering her own power. Like, I decide I don't want this job. I don't get that job. I decide I'm going to do this. And you do, like, somehow, you're the one leading all the changes. You're the one leading all of these things that are happening. They're never happening to you. So you're at the front of the wave in your life rather than being crashed around by it, or there's just something which to me is reflective of power in the soul, a powerful soul. So that's what I hear, and it's probably it probably does go hand in hand with the faith. Those two things probably do go together.
Yeah. I know Terry Choice wants to chime in.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, Sheila, and thanks for your presentation. And the one word that I would add, which I haven't heard yet, is trust. Like, you seem to have really have this huge trust that things are going to work out for you. But my question is, you talk about your spiritual transformation, and I can see that, since I first met you. Before you started coming to the Brahma Kumaris, when you came to going deeper, I mean, I just see this gigantic change in you. But I was wondering if that transformation that you've had, has it affected your longer term relationships, say with your daughter, with your brother, with different people? Have they become receptive to the changes that have happened to you?
Yeah, I would say my closest relationship would be with my daughter, because I live with her, and it certainly changed my relationship with her. I had a completely different relationship living with her prior, when she was a teenager and stuff, than I do now. Like I remember one time she dropped the top to a pot. It was one of the glass tops to a pot that shatters in literally 2,000 pieces. And she dropped it, and I actually didn't have any reaction whatsoever. My only reaction was stay where you are so I can get you shoes to put on your feet. But I was really amazed at how I didn't react and say, why did you do that? Oh my God, that's like the only top that we have to this pot and stuff. So yeah, it's changed how I deal with her. And sometimes she can be a challenge just because of some of the issues that she has. But I found that I'm a lot more calming. She's a person that it can be very black and white. There is no gray with her. So my being able to just be okay with that and calm has been huge difference, and it makes a difference with how she is with me as well. So that's really helped. And my sister's here, so maybe she can answer, how everybody else, how is everybody? I think it's changed my relationships with my family, and just finding my spirituality. I think I value them more, or at least I hope I do, and stuff. So maybe my sister can answer that side of the question. If you can unmute.
There, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah. Well, I've always adored you, and I've always supported you, and I was actually quite excited for you. I'm not going to say that I fully understand everything, but very excited for you. And yes, she always has had a light. I'm going to get weepy because I miss her. But she was also shy and maybe a little bit, I don't know, people weren't always your favorite for a lot of different reasons. So I've really seen a difference in you, and I'm very happy for you. I love you more than anything, and yeah, you rock. Now, I need to find some of that. So that's my journey.
Thanks.
Oh,
Love
that's
you too.
wonderful. Yeah, we love her too, Anna. So thank you for sharing her with us.
I just wanted to say, it's Sarah talking. I just have a comment and then a question. I think it's really lovely that you've found a place to give off even more good vibes, so to speak, vibrations, in the chapel, and that you're doing that. Because that when I first started coming to the center, I guess it was on Morris Street. This was like 2005. I thought, the vibration just made me really had a strong impact on me and made me feel like I'd found a place that really, the proof is in the pudding. The vibrations just, they really sunk in, and they made me want to come back and explore the BK way of doing things. And the question was, what have you learned from, because you told this story a few times at Peace Halifax and today, what do you think is your main takeaway? That's a very, yes. What have you learned from telling the story again a few times anyway?
Wonderful teacherly question, Sarah.
I know, I'm
wonderful teacherly question.
Just to take the time to reflect on my own story and to value it, to see the journey that I've been on, to see the lessons, but to see that I am changing and I am becoming more me than I've ever been. That's been nice, just to take the time to appreciate the journey.
What did you feel in that little hallway at Peace Halifax? I mean, we must have trundled down to Pier 21 and spent 6 hours setting up that entire hall for you.
You did. Through the first few steps, I like walked my normal pace, which was rush. And within a couple of feet, I just stopped and started to read. There was the little tiles and stuff on the floor and stuff. And I stopped to read them and to appreciate it. I think it was just stopping that I was able to catch that vibration. I know now it was God pulling me. Then I had no idea what it was, but I know it was God pulling me, and his vibrations is what I felt, although I didn't know that at the time. I just knew it was different, felt familiar, but I don't remember last time I'd felt it.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember when you went on the Vipassana retreat?
Mm-hmm.
And tell a bit about that.
So I was meditating at the center for probably about 4 or 5, no, it might have been 6 months and stuff. And like I said, meditation kind of came easy to me. And I experienced a bodiless stage through meditation at the center pretty early on and pretty regularly and stuff too. But I wasn't committed to the Brahma Kumari's way of thing at that point in time. I just wanted to experience a different type of meditation. So David Hard, who was at the Bedford Church, had went to the Vipassana retreat. So I thought I'd give that a try out. It was 10 days in total silence, other than just listening to the instruction at night and stuff. But I remember being there, and you can't do anything else. You can't take any other technique with you. You can't read, you can't take journals, nothing else. It's just meditating from 4 a.m. till like 7 a.m. at night. Meditation is the only thing that you do. So I was trying to learn that way of meditating, and it wasn't working for me. It's really focused on really sensing the sensations in the body. And I was just experiencing bodiless, and I couldn't feel any of the sensations on the body. And I tried for, about 3 days, and, you're meditating all day, so that's a long time. I tried to really do it their way, what they were telling me, and I just couldn't. So eventually I just gave up, and I just went back to the way of meditation that I learned at the Brahma Kumaris. And then the next 5 days, I just had a one-on-one experience with God. Like, I had answers to questions that I didn't even know I had. There was a whole bunch of stuff going on. I had just left my marriage and stuff. Everything that I thought I had settled. But in this one-on-one experience with God, he just downloaded, and I knew things that I know didn't come from me because it was well above my comprehension level. And I had answers to things that I didn't even know I had. So much had settled. So, I know that I never went to that retreat to learn that type of meditation. I went for a completely different reason, which I didn't know. But I just had a one-on-one with God for 5 days. It was the most amazing thing ever. And I came out of that retreat. Eventually, at the very last day, you started to talk, and I didn't even want to talk. I just went into my room where I stayed. It took me probably 2 or 3 hours to come out and actually mingle with people again, because I just wanted to stay in that cocoon. It was gold.
Can you say a bit about your relationship with God? We've heard lots about vibrations and listening, and describe a bit, what is that like for you?
It's been amazing. I grew up in church, but I was very focused on the teachings of Jesus. God was just somebody to fear. So I never prayed to God. That had never even crossed my mind that was an option and stuff. So I never grew up with a relationship with God. He was just somebody to fear. and stuff. So that was a really big thing when I came to the meditation. That, wow, I can direct with God. I don't have to go to this in between person and stuff. That was really big for me, that I could actually have a relationship with God. And that came pretty easy for me. Like once I started the meditation, I guess the meditation just kind of came natural to me, and going into silence, and sitting with God, is something that I do regularly. And I can't imagine not doing that, not having that every day is my go-to. He's kind of like my go-to friend. I don't need to ask. When I was very early in this, Debbie, like when I was asking other people, well, now I don't ask advice from other people. God's my go-to. And if I have a question, he's got the answer for me.
He seems to deliver.
He does, 100%.
And it is interesting to not need to ask anyone else, because you always, either through listening to yourself or sitting quietly, with God, you'll get clarity on whatever was in your mind anyways, right?
And I do. And I never ask advice from other people anymore.
Yes,
it just
we're
doesn't
well
even
aware of that.
think to me.
We're all
Sorry.
standing around waiting for Sheila to ask us something, and oh, nope.
Sorry.
No,
Just go to the source.
It's fantastic. All right. Anyone else, anything to ask or comment before we have a little meditation? Don't you just feel like you've been in the presence of just beauty for this last hour? Sheer beauty, hey? Yeah.
Sheila, it's Terry. I just want to thank you so much for this. I was there. We were there with you through this whole thing. And it was an amazing experience to watch you go through it. But the honesty that you had tonight really gave me an insight to what was going on with you, because you were very quiet through most of it. And it was, you could see that a change was happening with you, but it was very private and it was very with God. And I just feel so honored to have been there with you. So thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
All right. Beaming smiles all around, I see. Hearts touched. It's just the purity of your expression, really heart-touching. So I'm going to invite you just to lead us in a couple of minutes of meditation. Whatever from your story from this evening just inspires you. We're with you.
Just take in a deep breath. Just feel yourself relax. Just let go of whatever you've been holding throughout the day. And just come into silence. And as your breath slows down, you notice your thoughts are slowing down as well. You just go into a quiet room. A room that's just yours. It's quiet and peaceful. And in this room, you can recognize yourself as the soul. And you're in the security that you can listen. You can share your thoughts with God with an honest heart. You can hear him talking to you. Just enjoy the peace and the serenity that's in this place. Know that this is your special room. A room you can go to at any time when the world's too noisy and you just need a little bit of solitude. This is the room that you'll find that peace. So keep it special and close to your heart. You know the door to access it. When you're ready, just take in another breath and open your eyes. Enjoy the souls in front of you.